Alright guys, thanks for joining us on the episode 3 of the Progress Podcast. Today we're joined by Bianca Robinson from CEO Sleepout. Bianca, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thanks, Phil.
Good. Now then, obviously we met at last year's CEO Sleepout at St James's Park, so I've got a bit of an understanding of what you do, but for those who haven't come across yourself or CEO Sleepout, could you just kind of give a bit of an insight into what CEO Sleepout is and your role within that?
Yeah, sure thing, Phil. Well, CEO Sleepout is a national charity, and we hold events up and down the country from Northumberland to Portsmouth, where we gather the business community together. They spend a night outdoors, and we're encouraging them to make a stand against homelessness and poverty. So we're there to raise money for charities doing incredible work at the front line of homelessness in each of our host cities. So you came along to St James Park. There was, I think, 55 big-hearted business people there to spend the night outdoors and just to get a small inkling of what it might be like for somebody who's forced to sleep rough or forced to be homeless. And what I think happens is two things. One is that we get to raise this level of awareness and we get to raise this level of funds that do great work out in the community. But the second thing is that I've got this captive audience of business people, and quite often when they hear genuine stories from people who might even be just like them, who found themselves homeless, it unlocks a certain amount of understanding and compassion and empathy. And with that understanding and empathy, quite often those business owners want to know what more they can do. And actually my message to them is that they've got a lot of power, that they've got a voice that policymakers listen to, and that they can actually look at the way they run their businesses and bake in policies and procedures that actually go some way to reducing inequality and create a healthier business ecosystem that leaves less people out of the loop and actually closes those gaps in terms of people falling out and getting locked out of society and becoming homeless.
Because I mean, one of the things, I mean, again, you mentioned last year when at St James's Park, I think there's, and I count myself in this group of people, that there's people out there that there's a void between business and the community. I think people want to do something, but they don't really know how, or they know how, but they don't know what, you know. So I think where the CEO Sleepout helped me, and obviously it's helped countless others, is you're kind of giving people the vehicle to kind of to bring the two together. You know, I want to do something, I don't know what to do. You know, CEO Sleepout is kind of is filling that gap. Now, how did you become involved with CEO Sleepout?
Well, quite interesting, because my career is kind of a marketing brand expert. I also ran a small business, which is a web and creative agency. And then I went freelance as a consultant. And it was while I was freelance as a consultant, I was doing a bit of brand consultancy, marketing consultancy. I was also lecturing at Newcastle, lecturing at York St John University, and doing an adult BTEC. I was juggling a huge amount of things, and the founder and chairman of CEO Sleepout, who had run it up until then, you know, just as voluntarily with himself and his PA. That's Andy Preston, who's now the elected mayor of Middlesbrough. He phoned me up and said, I could use your help with CEO Sleepout. I said, well, I'll try and give you 2 days a week. And I slotted that in, but very quickly it became clear that CEO Sleepout had so much potential for growth that I could actually deliver a big step change in the growth of CEO Sleepout, and it overtook my life, and it was something that I could do that really expressed my values as a person as well, and I wanted to do something really meaningful, and this really was a kind of like a meeting of what I wanted to do with my life and a need that was there that I could contribute to. So within sort of 6 months, I was full-time coordinating the events nationally, and within just over a year, I was CEO. So,
I think when you say there, you know, you wanted to do something meaningful. Again, going back to what I was saying before, I think people often, especially business leaders, some of them that I've dealt with, I'll not mention any names, but see community work and fundraising as just a token kind of let's give them 50 quid or let's just give them whatever. But then on the flip side of that, there's people, as you say, that actually want to not just raise money but want to get involved. And we saw that video that I think it was Changing Lives put together last year, that actually highlights what homelessness is, and it totally changed my perspective on it. A lot of people view homelessness as just it's people who just either choose to, or people that have issues with substances, alcohol, that type of thing. But actually, it's such a broad spectrum of people. It could be people that are destitute, people who, have lost their job and have no other option. It's like such a bigger problem than I think a lot of people think that it is. So for me, seeing that video, and again, seeing the passion that you have for wanting to make a genuine difference, I think it is in turn making a genuine difference to other leaders and CEOs, to want to get involved in things like that. So how much is CEO Sleepout raised so far?
2.7 million. Since
That's
its
insane.
inception. And over 500,000 last year and the year before. Really, what I need to do is with COVID, it's really taken a sledgehammer to our ability to raise funds this year. And as soon as events are allowed, we will be putting on a lot of events, just trying to get enough funds in so we could. Two things: we've got charities who desperately need our help right now, but also we need to survive, and we need to be able to grow and effectively grow with just me as the only paid salaried employee. That becomes only what I can deliver and not more, and no more. So we need resources to help us do more. We can actually impact more lives and change more lives, which is brilliant. But what you were just saying there, Phil, just to unpack the things that you were just speaking about, the business people who come, you're right, they don't always come to a sleep out for altruistic reasons, because it's an amazing opportunity to rub shoulders with other businesses. It's great PR. You get to be seen to be doing the right thing. Your staff think you're the good guy. There's lots of reasons why somebody might come to an event, but it's my job when they get there to tell those stories that unlock that real understanding that you were able to gain. And the second thing is the what is homelessness question. This idea of the middle-aged white alcoholic on the street who can't get out of that cycle. That's like the tiny tip of the homelessness iceberg. So what we're seeing is way more women rough sleepers. We're seeing families bounce from insecure accommodation to insecure accommodation. You think what that does to the kids if they're going from school to school, is never able to form a community. They're living in a household under constant pressure and stress of poverty. We know that poverty plays a massive part in people's mental well-being and mental health issues. So homelessness is all of that. It's also the young person who can't live under the same roof as parents. They might be victims of violence. So they're bouncing around on people's sofas. That's also a type of homelessness that we need to tackle. But the root of all of this, there are systems that we need to campaign to improve, and one of those is housing. Housing is, if we can create the secure, affordable housing, we know we can house people who are homeless, because coronavirus has showed us that we can pull nearly 8,000 people, I think 6,600 people off the streets and into accommodation. And once they're in accommodation, we can work with them to work on some of the obstacles that they face to creating that productive, stable life. What Changing Lives do really, really well, they put people in accommodation, they build in the support services. And we saw the video of that lovely chap in his own little place, offering everybody a cup of tea, managing his own life, but with that support, and that's what's really needed. So opportunity to create that level of understanding. Then the next thing is, how do we build support from the business community to make the structural changes that are needed in society that start to reverse this upward trend of homelessness and get people into housing. So, and I've said to you before, I think the business community has that really powerful voice that policymakers will listen to. So that brings me to my next project, which is Leaders with Purpose. It's what we do with the network as a network of business leaders who, like you, want to actively, reduce these type of inequalities and create a healthier, wealthier society for everybody, because we're all part of the fabric of society. But unless we understand effective things we can do to help bring everybody up with us and create that healthy ecosystem, we don't tend to do it because we're all flying by the seat of our pants. We're just trying to, and at this time with COVID, I know that my small business owner, leader, target audience is stressing out because they're thinking, what post-COVID am I going to have to make redundancies? Am I going to keep my head above water? What is my business going to look like? How much business can I realistically do? So all of those fears are playing on the minds of the people I'm trying to talk to at the minute as well. So I just need to be aware of that. But it's also an opportunity to pause, reflect, policies. How could the head of Xero Corporation, the accountant, just released a job description for head of well-being. How brilliant is that?
I was going to say, just when you were talking there about people who are business leaders who've had the chance to pause and sort of, some have gone one way, and I think I'd read, can't remember which website it was on B Daily or something, where a business leader's kind of gone one of two ways. They've either gone, as you say, inward and thinking, how am I going to pay the bills and am I going to be in business? Or you've got the optimistic ones who've kind of go, right, this is giving me a chance to actually review things, look at the business as a whole, look at what we're doing, look at as you say, well-being, mental health, and come out of this a completely different business. I think it's those businesses that are going to hit the ground running, the ones that have reviewed things, that have made changes, that have put things in place to help people with mental health, because employees and people that work for these people, they're going through their own personal challenges. So when they come out of it and they go back to work, then that company has got things in place to help them and support them, and it's just a snowball effect going forward. And
right now I think mental health is really where businesses' focus needs to be when their employees come out of furlough, and every single person, I don't whether your circumstances are you've got enough money to survive, you've got places to go out and walk and feel normal, it doesn't matter. You've been affected, your mental health has been affected by COVID-19. It's an international traumatic experience for every human on this planet, and so employers can actually do a lot, and it's the ones that do think through what can they do that will kind of stem this. We're going to have a mental health epidemic, I think, and
100%.
And it will lead to homelessness, because it will leave people actually virtually unable. Some people won't be able to function in the way that they did before. So it's just preparedness for that, but it's also a shift. You've got Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, who's actually creating a budget not based on GDP but well-being of its citizens. This is a movement. This is all progress that is happening, and we're just seeing it slot into place piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. This progress comes with pain. You got to go through pain in order to build that progress. And I think that could be the opportunity that we're looking at right now.
I think that, again, you mentioned sort of mental health. Again, I think certain business leaders approach mental health like they approach fundraising and doing good work within the community. It's just something that a lot of people are talking about, but they don't really fully understand. I know people that run businesses, when you mention the words mental health, they just kind of go, not another buzzword, when actually investment, not just money, but time and understanding and processes in mental health can have a knock-on effect for businesses in terms of productivity, attendance, all that type of thing.
It's bottom line stuff. Bottom line. You have someone who has to drop out of work due to mental health. What's the cost to your business of that? It's huge. And if it ends up in you having to re-employ,
Yeah.
that's enormous.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to do that. And the resources to retrain somebody, you want to support. And it's the same, actually. One thing I'd love, businesses to consider, this is very controversial, but if somebody had an addiction issue, a lot of corporations, businesses have a zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
Because they're protecting the productivity of their. But what if that person actually was ready for support, as if it was an illness?
Yeah.
They could come back and be a productive player in that business.
Yeah.
Just what if? And you could save somebody from homelessness.
Yeah. Well, and again, it going back to sort of the not understanding fully what homelessness is, and what causes it. It's that cycle of, you might look at a person and say, well, you've got a job, you've got a car, you've got money. What's wrong? Like, you're not one of those people. But as you say, coming out of COVID-19 or any other sort of personal challenge that person has to go through, the car's gone, the job's gone, the money's gone. That might mean the flat or the house is gone. What do they do next? Do you know what I mean? And they've entered that system, as you say, of they'll go to the council cannot rehouse them or whatever, and then all of a sudden they find themselves on the street now. Maybe it's even 3-4 weeks ago, that person on paper looked like a successful person with a car, a job, a house, money. It can be gone, so as you say, the support, the mental health support needs, I think, from and I know we've spoke about this before, whether it's the government, whether it's an employer, needs to prioritize wellness, mental health, because, as you say, there's knock-on effects, recruitment, productivity. It's such a big thing in so many people. Like, and I know that's pessimistic, but a lot of people do get it. I get that, but in the media, it's a lot of the big companies that seem to get attention for mental health. What Google are doing, what Twitter are doing, people working from home at Twitter for the rest of their careers, and all this type of stuff. Like, there's not enough exposure for the small business.
No, and this has a lot more. The stakes are higher, I think, for a small business. You don't have your wage, salary, your salary bill. You don't. You just don't have the resources to do what Xero have done and hire a well-being director of well-being. So, but I think it's amazing that is now a thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you had said that 5 years ago, people would have just went, "What?" You know what I mean? Yeah. Exactly.
So it's progress. It is progress, and what I'm hoping to do is, with leaders with purpose, there will be certain pillars that they'll kind of sign up to agree to implement in their business. It won't be an accreditation. It could be in the future, but at this minute in time, it's, here's what I'm doing to be a good business, good business, and make sure my ecosystem is healthy. What are you doing? So it's a self-challenging. It's a network. There'll be thought leadership going on. There'll be access to really big thinkers and great events. There'll be resources, and there'll be signposting for businesses who do want to actually add value to the community. There can be a matchmaking service between what can you do that has an impact in your immediate community and society. So there's going to be lots of that.
So how far away from a launch are we with Leaders with Purpose?
It'll be 2021.
Right.
It was going to be 2020, but all of our resources, finances, and plans gone
out the window.
Let's say,
what kind of sort of sign-up process are you wanting people to? Are you going to start it with your network that you have already, and then kind of test it, and then grow it and expand it to everyone else, or?
Exactly. Everybody who's been on a CEO Sleepout will be made aware of how they can be involved, and they'll have kind of like an entry-level membership. But there will be ambassadors who are going to be big, well-known business people in each region, saying, almost as exemplars, how to do this good, responsible business. And then there'll be paid memberships, supporterships, and sponsorships. So
when you say sort of do the right thing, like, just get for people who are listening or watching, as a business owner, what kind of things specifically would you be sort of looking for them to? You talk about markers and sort of things to aim for. What kind of things can businesses do to sort of fit in with leaders with purpose?
Yeah, okay. Well, there's lots of kind of things that you could tick off, but you don't obviously have to if it doesn't suit your business. Subscribe to these things like, do you pay the living wage? So are your lowest paid employees, do they actually have enough to live on? Now, the national minimum wage has gone up and has been really effective, but it's still not quite enough to keep the wolf from the door for people. So if you can look at the Living Wage Foundation, then you can do that. It's creating equal access to opportunities. So if you're employing apprentices, where are those apprentices coming from? Are they from hard to reach areas? Are they from minority groups? It's all of these type of things. And I know there's legislation in place to try and ensure, and certainly FTSE 100 companies are absolutely legislated to do this, but SME left to, it's more their decision. Do they want to, what is their CSR policy? What do they want to do? But apprentices and creating those opportunities are really, really important.
Yeah.
Because we've got, I suppose, a generation of young people whose life has been stopped in its tracks.
Yeah.
And you have silos of high deprivation and poverty where people feel very, very trapped and they can't actually see a way out. But if you can offer them an apprenticeship, you can put the ladder down and bring them up, and that's very, very powerful. There's also things like paying your suppliers in 30 days.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I can empathise with that one. Obviously, working in the construction industry, as I was saying earlier on, like that is one of the biggest things for us. We get 30 days is the sort of the standard from a supplier, but a lot of the contractors who are paying us, I mean, some of them will ideally would like 30. Sometimes we're lucky if we get 45. If we're really lucky, we might get somewhere in between, but generally it's 60, 90 days before we get paid.
And it can be make or break for some small businesses in the ecosystem.
100%. I mean, even at the minute with what's going on, like I was having a discussion with somebody at North Tyneside Council last week, and she was saying, well, looking at your business, you haven't been affected by COVID-19, but actually we're going to feel this 2 months down the road, because during the pandemic, we've been receiving invoices for work that we did January, February, whereas the work that we should have done during April, May and June, we're going to feel that in 45, 60, 90 days time. So everyone's saying, the construction industry is great, it's fine, it's managed to get through, without any problems. Our pandemic, our crisis, if you like, is going to happen sort of September, October time, when there's nothing coming in because we weren't doing work in that time. Paying suppliers is massive.
The Joseph Rowntree Foundation has a big piece on responsible business that I kind of use to base my recommendations on, and the pillars that I'd love businesses to kind of sign up to.
Yeah.
But really, it's about shining a spotlight on the ones that are doing great things, giving them a platform to talk about what they're doing and share that best practice, and inspiring other businesses to do the same.
Yeah.
Think if you can jump up and say, here's what we're doing, it has a massive impact. The shoulder to shoulder with the business peers is really important, and it does become a big wave of.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to encourage with leaders with purpose.
I think as well, just sorry to interrupt you, one of the things that I've experienced working with either having my own small business or working with other small businesses is there seems to be, especially in some of the older multi-generational businesses, smaller businesses, that the company's culture and social responsibility is just, it's pink fluffy stuff. It's stuff that, people are so focused on making money and paying the bills that they think in their minds that having a CSR or having any sort of community policy or anything like that it's needless. You can't do it. What would your advice be to somebody who's in that position, feels that they're too small or it's not feasible for them to do that? What would you say to them?
I would say join anyway, and just as you can, and start implementing things in business that create a stronger business ecosystem. And if you think that it's just fluffy and light,
Yeah.
you're wrong. It's about bottom line.
Yeah.
So you need reading the movements of the market, right? So what you've got is a generation, well, two generations, millennials and Gen Z, who are 100% voting with their conscience.
Yeah.
They're putting their money into things they believe in.
Yeah.
And they won't even be hired. EY had to do a big piece. Why weren't they young people wanting to work for them?
Yeah.
Because they didn't have their values and articulated and lined up. And if a business doesn't have that, you are just not going to get the employees or the profits.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of what's coming out there and who's got the power. And these young people have got the power, actually.
Yeah.
So you're doing it for altruistic reasons, but also, you want to profit and prosper. And one way to do that, one way to enhance your brand, one way to enhance your image is to make sure your business is lining up with values, and your values reflect the values of the people that you want to be purchasing your product or service, right? So I think what's in it for the person who wants to kind of sign up officially with Leaders with Purpose, or just unofficially start to put things in place, building blocks in place. Well, with Leaders with Purpose, you'll gain access to other people who are doing the same, so you can actually all go on the journey together and use each other as a support network, create that healthy ecosystem, gain insight into important issues like homelessness, poverty, mental health, what practical things you can do to go out in your community and actually support those, connected to charities that help you to give back. You'll be supported to embed that kind of purpose inside your business culture. It's an opportunity to do something meaningful. When you ask people, Phil, what makes you feel good at the end of your business month? What have you done that's made you feel good? It's usually the stuff that is meaningful, purposeful, that actually gives you the pride. And it's not the chasing the invoices and getting in your invoices that makes you feel proud. It's literally what have I done to feel good about myself? But it's quite often that stuff. So it's an opportunity for what makes you tick. So sometimes that giving back, actually, people really find that that's what makes them tick. Yeah,
I think, again, you mentioned about sort of the younger generation and the generation coming through. I think the businesses that look, and I touched on this at the start, the businesses that have used this whole COVID-19 situation to sort of reevaluate their business and think, like, where do we want to go? What kind of people do we want to be attracting and that type of thing? Like, they're sort of, I hate to use the word future-proof, but they're preparing themselves for this next wave of young people coming into a business who will look past the hourly rate, they'll look past the job title, and they'll go, what else do you do?
Exactly.
As you say, like, what do you do in the community? What kind of, I mean, for instance, I know I mentioned earlier on, my wife's just taken a job at EE, and some of the stuff that they do is unbelievable. I mean, like, I think she gets 2 or 3, so I think they're called community days a year, where volunteering days, that was it. So she can go out and they'll pay her to volunteer for various different, whatever charity she wants to. Things like that. It doesn't cost a huge amount. When you factor it in, she might get paid something like £60 a day, over that's £120, £180 a year for these 3 days it costs EE. But for her being allowed to do that, like, that's just, like, it's... Right,
it's fantastic, isn't it? But actually, corporates are doing really well.
Yeah.
In corporates like EE, they have legislation in place that they have to enact, and they're doing really well at leading the way on business corporate responsibility, social impact, all of those things. And it's small businesses really are as the market, enterprise businesses with an eye on growth. That is the market that doesn't have a framework. They don't really have the legislation doesn't necessarily apply to them. So, and they don't really know necessarily where to start. And they might be naturally doing a lot of things. A lot of businesses are values led.
Yeah.
You quite often find that the business was started up because somebody wanted to provide a solution to somebody's pain.
Yeah.
And that in itself is values led. So quite often the business leaders wants to, but it's time, it's pressures, it's, just trying to keep your head above water, survival, growth, all of that stuff. But what I'm saying is, by voicing and telling the world how you are leading with purpose, that will enhance your attractiveness to your market and enhance your growth, and actually have a positive impact on your bottom line. It will certainly have a positive impact on your branding, your messaging, and how others see you, and that's got to be a great thing.
So I think that's the trouble that I've found, is that, and I know you listened to the appreciation episode that I put out last week. There's another one that I'm working on at the minute, where I talk about people saying one thing and doing another. Now, people put out various marketing messages saying, we're a caring business, we do this, we do that, but actually they never follow through on it. It's finding that, or it's having the focus on genuinely embedding that belief into your everything that your business does. It's not just a marketing tactic. It's it's cultural. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. They know that they need to do these things, and they know that it's well received when they put it out there. But actually, it's not sort of, the activity isn't valued. It's kind of seen as some sort of like, it's not. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. Yeah, and again, you said it before. Some people will go to these events that you do with CEO Sleepout, and they view it as that. They think, right, I'll get fantastic pictures next to the pitch at Lord's or St James's Park, and it's great for Twitter and all that type of stuff. And yes, I know it does raise money, but it's like I question people's motives for doing things like that, because if you're going to go and you're going to spend a night outside, like, open yourself up to learning, open yourself up to getting involved and fully understanding it. And I mean, from you personally, you've done, how many events have you done now?
Oh, I think I've slept out at 40.
So you've done 40 events now. Yeah. Are you finding that at the start people were very sort of, it's just a PR stunt, and now you're getting people coming back for the right reasons? I
get people who come back again and again, which is fantastic. And I just, we had to pivot a little bit and use a bit of innovation, and during the early days of lockdown, we thought, well, we're going to be missing out on all that fundraising and all the charities, who rely on us. So we did the nationwide stay-at-home sleep out. And actually, I just went to my database, and what I found was, it was I would chalk it up as a success. £47,500 raised. Yeah. Probably will get to 50, but might trickle in over time. And the people who'd done a sleep out before in the business capacity used it as an opportunity to share the values of compassion and empathy with their kids.
Yeah. And it's that generation that are going to be more impacted by this when they enter the workforce, and they're going to have this exposure that their parents. I mean, my kids, I've got 2 kids, as you know, and when I first did the sleep out, they were sort of like, Dad, are you mad? Why would you want to spend the night outside? And, there's no electricity. You can't have your Alexa next to your bed, and you can't do this and all that, And now they haven't, and whenever there's a conversation about homelessness, they always come to me and say, oh, Dad, this was on telly, and this man was sleeping rough, and you will have helped him, won't you? And I was like, well, in some small way, we all did. And then my daughter, who's 6, she came to us maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's now sort of saying, Dad, can I give me some pocket money to a charity or what? So, and she's only 6. By the time she gets to 18 and she's left school, I'd like to think both of them anyway would be in a position where, they're looking at jobs, they're looking at careers where these things are important to the employer, like as you say, so fingers crossed, you can only hope. But I think the more we expose that generation to this type of thing, and that they can actually get out of the house and actually do something, I
think they've seen it exposed to a lot of compassion as well around lockdown. I think they've seen how communities can pull together to look after each other. Yeah, and that's going to be one of the major. I can be quite cynical about how this pause, this reset, this rethink is actually going to play out. But I think we can't help but have shifted as society to a more compassionate, caring society. And I think that's going to have massively positive impacts on the way people do business and the way business people, kids are already, they've had a tough time, don't get me wrong. And sure, their education's really suffered and it's a dreadful thing. However, they have seen what good can be done when we pull together and look after each other, which is a lovely, lovely thing. I think, you were saying, I mean, that's why when it's my job, when you come to a sleep out, a small proportion of you will already have experienced with somebody who's, that you're there because you already care about the cause. Yeah. But that's why I see it as my job to open up that conversation and that education piece around unlocking the understanding. And then once that is unlocked, I think that there is a need for people to stay engaged and stay involved. And what more can they do and realize that power that's in as that section of society, that business SME growth business leadership section. They've got massive power to kind of mend some of the broken bits of society, it's not all on their shoulders as individuals, but as a collective.
Exactly.
And as we make that progress, which I say, despite all the things you see in the world today, the Trumps, the protests, everything, that is all progress. That's the pain that breaks things down and creates that upward direction of travel that I think we're in.
It'll certainly be exciting. I'm quite optimistic, and I was sort of blindly at the start of all this thinking, this will change and people will become nicer to each other and more supportive. I still kind of do think that'll happen, but I am more excited to see what happens with business, because I think there'll be a lot more appreciation for people. There'll be a lot more appreciation for their staff going through what they've gone through. I think
it'll be a wonderful change.
I think so, and I'd like to think that, again, I know it's very negative at the minute, but the whole focus that's been sort of, the spotlight's been shone on the government and the things that they're doing and they're not doing. I think they're going to be held a lot more accountable. I think this has engaged a lot of people, young people as well, into politics, into, as you say, what can be done, what is possible to be done.
Hey, they work for us, we've got to always remember that. They work for us. And there's lots of ways we can democratically use our voice and our power.
Well, we'll see what happens. But listen, Bianca, I want to really thank you for your time. I know you had a few technical issues at the start, but I want to thank you for spending the last 40 or so minutes with us. Before you go, I don't know if you've seen this, but before you go, at the end of each chat that I do, we do what's called Rapid Fire 5. I give you 5 questions, two answers per question, quick fire, off the bounce. You can't think about it. I want your first answer, right? So this one could be the first one could be as controversial as the last one. So we'll see how this goes. So, right, first one: the UK or New Zealand?
New Zealand.
I thought you'd say that. Instagram or Twitter?
Twitter.
Okay. Your guitar playing or your daughter's guitar playing?
Daughters.
Middlesbrough or Newcastle?
Borough.
Ooh. Oh, he's so close.
And watch what happens to Middlesbrough the next 5 years. You'll be amazed.
Have you seen? Are you talking about the football? Or are you talking about the city?
I'm talking about the town. I'm not as confident on Borough, but obviously as of today with our new boss,
Neil Warnock. You
never know.
Well, you never know. And the last one, which is the controversial one. Now, no pressure, but we've currently got 1-1 in the series. So, Star Wars or Star Trek? No, come on.
Star Trek for this. I'm a science nut.
Nah.
I did astrophysics as one of my courses at my first year of uni.
Nah.
So I like Star Trek. It's a bit more.
Disappointed. Listen, Bianca, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It's been fantastic chatting to you on that. See, I shouldn't do that. No, let's not. But yes, thank you so much for your time, Bianca. Where can people find out more about CEO Sleepout and when it launches Leaders with Purpose?
Yeah, ceosleepout.co.uk for the minute is where you need to be. And can I just finish by saying, it's what we want is prosperity, and it's fantastic to work hard and prosper, but we don't want is prosperity at the expense of your people, the families of the people, community, society, the environment. So that's what we're plumbing for.
Fantastic. No, we'll certainly keep an eye out for on Twitter, now that I know that's where you prefer to be, for the Leaders with Purpose launch. And thank you so much for your time. And
thanks, Phil. Wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
You too. Take care, Bianca.
Namaste. Bye. You did it.
I did. Oh.
Oh God, I have to pull it far like that.
Oh, no. Right, we'll end it there. Cheers, Bianca. Take care.
Bye now.
Cheers.